you or not to do that. Can you tell me in 1 or 2 words what it is? Just type it in the chat box, please. Just 1 word or 2 words. What makes these Ivy Leagues or IIM people, IITians, different from the rest of the folks? Why do people treat it different? Could you please, share what you think that differentiation is, please?
Okay, we have responses pouring in.
Yeah, please.
So Anilesh says brand. Anand says ability to persist. Tarun says potential. Sachin says credibility. Avikalp says prove that this person has at some point in their lives worked hard as hell. Manish says smart and competitive. Himanshu says grit. Shiv says been through, once again, rigor. Bhavish says hungry. Shaman says network. Sandeep says courage.
Any more?
Only you missed my comment.
You have to give it yourself. You're the co-host. And Regin says proven analytical skills. Sir,
Okay,
you
that's
can
good.
pass on your comment also.
Jugaad
Yeah.
at all levels.
I would like, before Anjan speaks, there is a good friend of mine, my colleague, PVG Menon. PVG, could you share what you think is different?
Participants can unmute themselves also. So, sir, if you want to unmute, you can unmute and speak.
Just 1 word, please.
Okay, he has sent his message. Great sample due to brutally competitive selection process. And brackets he has given JEE.
Our chief coach, Murli sir, could you?
I think it's been well summed up. You have a strong selection process. You continue going on merit. Therefore, you start developing more and more overview, and life becomes a journey of continuously learning.
Okay.
There are a few more responses, Rajiv. I'll just read them out. Nikita says
please.
intellect stamped by a brand. Himanshu says can-do attitude. And Regin says legacy of those institutions in picking, molding, and graduating best-in-class graduates. Anjan sir, your views, please.
Mine is fine. I said jugaad or making it happen by any way, whatever, any ethical way. I think that's more important. I wouldn't like to say that any other way.
Okay, so basically, some of the answers have been very brief, very simple, and to the point. Some has been long. Basically, all of us have a habit of either simplifying the topic or the challenge or the question, or either complicating it. Now, what I would say is that, what most of you said in different ways, IITians, IIMs, MITians, etc., they had gone through a process, and that process has made them dependable. You entrust a job to them, they will deliver it. Execution is the key and most important factor that determines our success. It's not just execution alone, it's how we execute. It's how we execute the project or the assignment, how we deliver our promises, how we work on a strategy that matters. And that's what, differentiates a success from failure. Now, this is what, when an investor looks into a venture, he doesn't look for the idea or your business plan alone. He looks at the capability of you to execute the project. So what do we need for all this? You can sum up all that in one single word: resources. You need various resources to deliver, right? So our session today is on how to execute, how to deliver our venture, and what we need for that, the various resources that we need, and the challenges that we face while managing resources, and a few solutions to that. Since all of us are here engineers or managers and well experienced, so I'll not go deep into the topic, but I'll wait for you to ask me questions if there are, if I need to do that. So please, if you have any questions, please mention the chat box to either Anjan or to Sony here, IIT Startups, and they will pick it up and they will come in. So can we move ahead? Sony, the next slide, please. So here what we're talking about is understanding strategic resources management through the 5M model. The 5 model, as you know, is the pretty standard model for management, and we will have a take a look at it. The next, please. So, yeah. So what is our focus? Now, we can't talk about all levels of industry today, but what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the resources management and venture from idea stage to let's say 3 or 4 years in the journey. We will not talk about the environment in a large company, middle level company, but we'll stick to idea to small level. The next, please. Sorry. Yeah. So before that, what basically characterizes the kind of resources that we need? It depends on the maturity of the market that we are in. Okay, so we are right now in a stage with what we call Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is characterized by lots of smartness going into technology, into processes, a lot of use of the internet, computing power, robotics, things like that. Looking at new, a lot of new opportunities in terms of market, in terms of customer needs and customer wants that come out, and we are developing solutions for that. So innovation doesn't stop; it keeps on continuing. The next, please. There are 4 stages and 7 strategies for exploring, business, and that includes market penetration, market expansion, new product development, developing a product for a new market, acquiring companies, joint ventures, strategic partnerships, R&D, etc. The resources that we need in a company or a venture depends on the task that we have at hand. The next slide. So what resources do we need to grow for a business and succeed? Basically, there are 5 M's that we look at, which basically represent people, the location, money, equipment, time, or any other aspects that we need for the businesses. All these are resources, not just material resources, not just raw materials or finance. Everything you need, including starting from your education background, your competence, etc., is a resource for a business. The next, please. Everyone has heard of the iceberg concept. Very little is seen in the outside. So same thing about resources. We are not aware of 80% of the resources that are required for the success of a project. And what we are only aware of are just 20%. And what happens because of that? Because of that, we don't give attention to the majority of the resources, which basically would, would be very important for us success. The important factors of a venture are mostly four. One is funding, the business model or the strategy that you have, the core idea that you have, and the team of people, the skills that are required, the talent that is required for your venture to execute. Next, please. Now, these are the 5 M's: man, method, money, materials, machines. But along with that, I would also add these, 8 other M's. The mission is a critical, the objective of what you're doing is important. I mean, you can run a business for profit, you can run it for changing the world, you can do it basically to, score a point against someone else. But that mission determines your, your strategy and quite a lot of things. The moment, the time that you start your business, the time, because you got technology, you got a market situation. For example, you had pandemic. So, during the pandemic period, all the customer needs changed. Therefore, the potential of businesses also changed. The kind of resources that you're using for businesses change. Momentum, the speed at which you need to do business. Delivery in 10 minutes, delivery overnight, just in time, etc. Management. The kind of management is also considered as a resource in many management concepts, because the leadership of the business is quite important. Milieu is basically the environment that you're existing in, because the environment also determines quite a lot of what you're doing. So, for example, people in Bangalore has a special quality, a special environment. So businesses companies rush to Bangalore, but you can't see companies going to Hooghly or to, let's say, Vellore. So the environment that you're in will, so the environment that you're in also determines, and it is also an input that you use for a business. The market again is a good resource. Just 1 second, the last part. And the message that you're, the communication, the branding, the positioning that you use for your product. Yeah. So let's quickly do a poll right now. It's a survey. Can you rate the resources according to the importance they are to your venture? You can select 3 of them. Yes, thank you.
I hope everyone can see the poll. So please log in your response. It's a multi-choice. Please rate 3. Choose top 3. Now the 10 seconds. Yeah, I think we've got it. I'm ending the poll. Yeah, I think, Rajiv, can you see the results? Rajiv, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I hope you can see the results.
Yeah, can you just read it out once more?
Sure. So men B has the highest score, 95%. Then comes money, 68%. Then time, 50%. Methods, 45%. And machine, 9%. No votes for material and location.
Okay. Unfortunately, location is one of the most important resources that you have. That's the location of your business. Uh, has a great deal of influence on the success of your venture. Location also includes the kind of facilities that you have, the factory, the buildings, the closeness to your your ecosystem, your suppliers and vendors, closeness to your customers, the convenience of your customer to come to your place. So that is a very important resource. Let's move ahead. Is there anything anyone wants to say before we go forward? Anyone who can take a couple
If
of
you have any
questions?
queries, please raise your hands. Yes,
Not
Manish?
just queries, not just queries,
I-
even comments.
I think people did not choose location because maybe most of the people, especially founders, are already having their businesses in a place where that constraint is already met. So they have not mentioned it.
No, Manish, the thing is, the question what we have is, what according to you is the biggest, the most important resources? You are supposed to be in a good location, but we're not talking about it. Anyway,
Okay.
that's okay. So
Fine,
any
fine.
other comment you want to add? Thank you.
I think we can move on.
Yeah, please, the next slide, please. So let's talk about resource management. Resource management is efficient and effective deployment and allocation of an organization's or a project's resources. These can be intangible or it can be tangible. Now, what you're doing in resource management, number one is understanding what resources that you need. Understanding how much of that resource that you need. Understanding when you need the resource. Understanding how you're utilizing those resources. Number five, understanding how efficiently that you have used the resources. And then six, are there any mistakes that you have made? Are there any risks involved? Is there any inefficiencies? Number seven would be to correct those. And number eight is to validate the success or output of those. So this is what a resource management does. Next, please. Yeah, so the goal of resource management is utilize 100% of your resources in an organization. We have to also ensure that whatever we are doing, how we're using resources and the output meets the company's or the project's goals. For this, we need a good team. And not only resource management, but also resource allocation is a very important thing. And also the utilization efficiencies. The discovery of resources, locating the resources, acquiring those resources, how you do that determines a great deal on how you're moving forward in your businesses. So this is in summary about how to utilize or how to manage your resources. Thank you. Next, please. Once again, a five-step process: scheduling, utilizing, forecasting the requirement, planning, reporting, analyzing. So this is the five-step process in resource management. The next, please. Why do you need to efficiently manage your resources? Number one, avoid unforeseen problems. Number two, prevent burnout or conflicts. Number three, to ensure that you have a safety net for your project or your businesses. Number four, it builds transparency among your organization, because everyone knows what is there, what is needed, when it is needed, and how it has to be used. And number five, this processes enable you to measure efficiencies in your operations and in your project. Next, please. There are four benefits of an efficient and effective resource management. Number one is it helps you to eliminate waste. By ensuring that you get the resources, the right resources in the right manner, at the right time, in the right quantity, and ensuring that it's used in the right way, you are able to eliminate waste. Now, waste is a thing that you're paying for actually. Many people don't think waste as a cost. It helps you to optimize time. It minimizes your risk and it maximizes your profit. It maximizes the quality of the project that you do. How you calculate the profit or the success determines on each of the project. Now, profit or success does not necessarily mean numbers and, let's say, high sales or high cash surplus, profit margin, or higher new customers acquired. It is a little bit more complex formula, which we can go in detail during the open session. Let's go to the next slide, please. There are several techniques that you can use. Some of them are simple techniques. Some of them are complex techniques. Some of them require machinery, or technology. Number one is using technology. Number two is using people. Number three is leveling resources, which basically means that you understand how much resource you need and when, and ensure that you don't have excess resources in stock. Resource smoothing, efficient forecasting of resources, digital asset management, facility management, going agile or lean, and of course, most importantly, managing quality. Next, please. This is very briefly 9 best practices for business resource management, which has been proven by experience and something learned in school. Embrace the 80-20 rule with talent and people. Now, what it means is very simple. Entrust 80% of your responsibility to 20% of your people and empower them, and they will efficiently manage all the resources for you. The rest of the 80% of the people of the talent will be effectively managed by efficient deputation of or allocation of responsibilities. Establish a centralized resource pool. Ensure that the top management has control over all resources. You can, of course, allocate some responsibilities, delegate them to further departments or subordinates. But it's very important that the core team has total control over all the resources management, so that there is no wastage and there's a control over the cost. Every resource has cost. Even delays have cost, waste has cost, errors have cost. So if the core team can control it, then it can be allocated, provisioned, and managed properly. Apply a common project management methodology. We should ensure that across the organization and the project or the venture, the methodologies that we're using is common to everyone. That ensures transparency, that ensures that each and everyone understands what the other person is doing, or the other person is communicating. And it also enables us to measure efficiencies and also report in a very effective manner. Resource management is a very continuous, it's always a continuous, sustained, continuous process. You keep acquiring it, you keep managing it, you keep replacing. And it has to be seen as a continuous loop. Plan around the availability of constrained resources. There are some seasonal resources, there are some resources which are rare to get. So you need to plan around their availability. In some cases, you've seen that when taking land, basically it's advised to apply for 5 times or 6 times the land that you require now, because you're expecting a business to grow, or you're expecting that you may need to share your land with your strategic partners or vendors, or your supply chain partners. And so that you need to plan around that. You need to account for non-project time. Every project or every process has a non-project time or non-process time, where a machinery is idle, or there is a gap in the time for the supply of materials to come. There might be strikes, there could be flood, you have pandemics, etc. So this could be a good time to do your maintenance. It could be a good time to sit down and analyze your processes, try to look at substitutes, or try to develop substitutions, or create design change, etc. Try to limit multitasking. Try to avoid multitasking. Everyone is not good multitaskers. There are some people who are very good in multitasking, some people are not. So it's always good that if you have a control over there or over that, and use multitasking only when it's most necessary. Make your resources more productive. Try to find ways to utilize, to get the last sweat out of your resource. Try to use technology. Try to use, everyone talks about enterprise resource planning, ERP, as a technology, but it's more of a concept or a technique. And that's very effective using technology. Technology and techniques will help us manage our resources better. The next, please.
Rajiv, before we move on, Himanshu wants that you please repeat the 80-20 rule once again.
Okay, so 80-20 is simple. Basically, 20% of your talent or employee or team is empowered with maximum, skills, and I mean, they have basically, if you look at your team, 80%, 20% of your talent will always be of a higher standard. So you should find ways to use them more. So in an organization, the cream 20% is tasked with the most difficult and most valuable tasks, which includes maybe innovation, includes technology, includes management, all that. While 80% is of lower skills, and these are the people. See, 20% of your people are difficult to replace. I mean, of course, anyone can be replaced, but 20%, they are very expensive, and they would be highly skilled and very tough, very difficult to acquire, and they'll be in great demand also. But 20% are easily replaceable. So you need to understand how to use this top 20% to top 20% of your talent. So that's what I meant by 80-20%.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's one more comment from
yeah.
PVG Menon, sir. So he says, isn't there an inherent contradiction in using 100% of resources? What if, say, people fall sick or machines break down? Then there is no slack capacity to deploy and hence schedules get broken.
Is right. So
Yeah.
that's why we do the resource planning. That's why we need to plan resources that we always have to have. We always need to plan for such kind of eventualities. This also comes under non-project time, where you basically, like, sometimes a very let's say if you're talking about a company like Rolls-Royce. 20 to 30% of the employees are indispensable. If one or two people get sick at a time, then they can manage. But if more than that get sick, the whole production will stop. So it's very important when you have a larger enterprise to ensure that there is a backup plan for when somebody gets sick or someone quickly leaves away, right? Especially when a startup, you have a very small team, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people team. If one person steps back for some reason, if he sells, the enterprise will have a major problem. So you need to plan for that also. Thank you.
Yeah, Menon sir has something to say. Sir, please go ahead.
Can I just say it instead of typing?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Rajiv, my difficulty with the construct you just gave comes from the fact that you started with 100% resource utilization, which, let's say if you're a software services company, which means zero bench. And then you run into problems. Computers break down. If you're in the logistics business, trucks break down. There are strikes, roads get washed away in the rainy season. And so 100% resource utilization means that you are exposing yourself to business risk. That's what I wanted to ask you. I understand this concept of non-project time that is built in, but when a running project is going on, and if it's 100% resource utilization, then from a PERT CPM standpoint, everything is on the critical path.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And see, as I said, every rule does not apply to every company. So each company has, or each venture or project has its own characteristics and its own character and its own environment. So whatever strategy that we're using, whatever management practice or technique that we use, has to be customized to that venture. I thought we'll come to that, when we're talking about challenges in the future slides. So since you brought it up, I would like to add that now. We need to factor in several failure possibilities and failure points whenever we plan a project efficiently. We need to do that. So, but as always said, nothing can be 100% foolproof. What could go wrong could go wrong. But what we can do is we can anticipate some of that and try to plan for it in advance. And for a small company or a startup, some of the resources are very, very difficult to come by. Right? And at times, these kind of challenges are very difficult. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so what you're saying is founders need to have disaster planning as part of their strategic plan anyway.
Absolutely.
All right.
We need to do gap analysis. We need to look at risk analysis and plan for it.
Great, thank you.
Next, please. When we talk about enterprise resource planning, it's not just technology, as I said. It encompasses taking into account all the resources and effectively planning for that, which also includes a proper and well-defined ERP will enable you to understand the gaps that you have, the risks that you have, and help you to plan, for the disasters and any other challenges that you meet to an extent. But as I repeatedly said, nothing is 100%, perfect. There could always be gaps. So one thing which you need to understand as a small business or as a startup is that not to worry about, making mistakes in your planning, not to worry about the gaps and the risks that you face. What you need to do is plan for it. If you have difficulty, there are always people who are available to help you find a solution to that. Let's go to the next slide, please. Sonic? Right, now here, can you share what are your major challenges that you face? Here again, we'll do a survey. And if you feel that there are additional challenges in addition to the ones that are stated, you could share that in the chat box. Thank you.
I have shared the poll. I hope everyone can see that.
Sony, it just disappeared from my screen. So
Okay,
I can
I'll
share
launch it again.
Same for me.
Yeah. Now can you see it?
Yeah.
So again, you can choose 3 options. It is a multiple choice poll. I'll give 10 more seconds. Yeah, I'll just end the poll now.
Yeah, yes, please.
And I'm sharing the results. I'll just read it out for your benefit. So the maximum vote goes to go-to-market, 73%. And then creating a team and empowering them, that gets 50%. Product customer validation, 35%. Product development, 31%. Oh, in between, there's creating an effective financial strategy that got 42%. And R&D gets 8%. Allocating resources, 23%. So that's the result. So major challenges go to market for most.
Okay.
Top 3
Sorry,
would be go to market, creating an effective financial strategy, and creating a team and empowering them.
Okay, that's good. So the first thing about resource management is to understand what are the challenges that we have, what are the gaps that we have. And finding a solution to that is the next step. Let's go to the next one. Thank you. So basically, there are there are a few techniques that we use for quality management, just in time, and resource management. Six Sigma, Agile, lean processes, Kaizen, TQM, just in time. These are just a few of them. So basically, most of these, they focus around understanding the processes that you have, how you're using the resources, how efficiently you're using, and how you're allocating them, and cutting down wastage and quality issues. along the way. Let's go to the next one, please. Sony? Yeah, so gap analysis and risk management processes are very important in the resource management process. Very simple process. It's not very complicated. But and there are standard formats and templates available for that. But you know, each of the ventures and projects are in, and the level of maturity that you're facing, they manage these gaps efficiently. Having a disaster management strategy and a backup plan would be very essential for startups and small businesses, because they do not have the deep pockets nor access to many resources that the larger companies have. Next one, please. All the same, let's not go overboard with Agile. We have to find a fine balance between being agile and being rigid, because every project, as I said, has its own characteristics. In some, and every market also has its characteristics. So finding a balance between agility and being non-agile is very important. The next, please. Thank you. We can open for discussion now.
Yeah, you can raise your hands, and you have the option to unmute also. So when I call your name, you can unmute and share your feedback, comments. It's open for discussion now. Okay, if no one has a comment, Rajiv, I would like to share one experience of mine. So it's based on the poll that we had earlier, that resource management. And I saw many gave the maximum vote to men, and methods was slightly below the thing. Now, the thing is, in my experience, if the methods and processes are not in place, then you won't know what to do with the men. So I feel, in my personal opinion, and my personal experience also, like my Stitched, when we had started off, we were unable to ship more than 10 shipments a day. So we thought the solution was hiring more people to get the packages done. So we hired them, but we didn't have the process in place or the methods in place. So there was no marked improvement. And after that, we did a pivot. We established the process that needs to be followed. And now we are shipping around 300, 400 shipments a day. So in my opinion, process needs to be established so that you know how you can effectively utilize your other resources. So what do you say on that, Rajiv?
I think I agree with you. Now, there are two sides of this. Number one is there is a limit to for us as a startup. Now, as I said earlier, all of you are mostly engineers and scientists, and very few of you have operational background, operational experience or training. So there is always a difficulty that you will have in understanding the environment that your venture is in. You may be able to plan out your process properly. You may be able to create a good framework for your product development and execution. But you may not be able to anticipate a lot of, the iceberg theory. There are quite a lot of things which are not, which will not reveal themselves until you get started. And at those times, you'll have to come out with new strategies, new plans to overcome the constraints that you have your, I wouldn't say faulty, but I would say imperfect resource plan. So this is something that every startup and every small businesses will face. Even large businesses faced this when we had a series of financial economic crisis around the world. We had faced this problem during the pandemic period, where many of our plans, they just collapsed. So the process is something that you have control over. That's where you can bring in a little bit of flexibility and like Anjan said right now, a little bit of jugaad into solving these problems that you face. Thank you.
True. We have Shankar. He has a query. In one of the slides, you have shown a comprehensive ERP plan. What is your take on implementing it in phased manner rather than going with a full-fledged ERP, especially since a startup faces cash flow challenges in the beginning?
Shankar, when I said ERP, I did not mean the ERP technology solution. I meant ERP as a concept, as a management tool. That has to be in place. But as a startup, you can only have it in phases. You cannot have it at one go. Sony just shared her experience now, which highlighted the problems, the big challenge that a startup has. There are lots of variables and uncertainties that you have.
Sorry to interrupt, Rajiv. Again, your voice has become very faint.
Sorry, the signal keeps fluctuating here.
Sure, we understand.
I'm trying to get to a higher ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, there are a lot of variables and inconsistencies and other things that a startup will have to face. And so you cannot plan for everything. And as a startup, you're also learning as you go forward. You'll be, you're going to face challenges and issues, new issues, new challenges as time comes in, and you need to understand them clearly before you find a solution. But ERP as a tool could be embraced from the beginning, allowing gaps, allowing sufficient flexibility for you to keep on customizing it as the time goes on. Technology can come later. As a startup, many times you don't need a proper ERP solution. You need a CRM solution, you need accounting solution, but you don't need all the ERP modules. But you need the framework, you need the management. Thank you. Does that answer you?
Thank you, Rajiv. I hope that answers the question. And Shankar, you can also let me know if there's any follow-up question. In the meantime, Avikalp has a question. He says, as a startup, growth is one of the most important things, but growth and risk management seem to be at odds with each other, thinking about 100% resource utilization. How should we maintain this balance between risk and growth?
Like what Mr. Menon had said earlier, 100% resource utilization is not possible. You should always have a contingency plan in place. You should always have a contingency in place. That's why every IT companies, as you grow, you have people on bench, and you always hire one or two people more than you need, even in the management space. Even startups do it. So 100% utilization is not always something that is acceptable. Yeah, so for a growth, as I said earlier, can you just repeat that question once more? Sorry.
Sure. As a startup, growth is one of the most important things, but growth and risk management seem to be at odds with each other. How should we maintain this balance between risk and growth? And he wants the answer in terms of a startup with less than 10 employees. So how do they manage that?
One, I would say that your company is not going to be stuck at 10 employees. You're going to grow, and growth always has its challenges. You need money, you need space, you need orders, you need to get into new markets. You need to be scalable. You need to have a business model that is scalable. A business model is, again, all the time not constant. It is always changing. So a long-term business model is something which is very much different from the immediate term business model that you have, the beta run that you have, the POC stage model that you have. So that keeps changing. So your venture is not going to be stuck at 10 people. In the beginning, when you have a constraint of having few people and few resources in hand, you need to be very agile. You need to adapt to that. But risk and gaps also come with certain benefits, because it enables you to innovate, right? So when you encounter risk, you try to find solutions which to overcome those risks, and keeping in mind the limited resources that you have in other areas like finance and in terms of space, in terms of time, etc. So think of risk or the challenge that you face as an opportunity for you to change, for you to innovate, for you to develop new products, for you to pivot, or even go to new markets. Then you would be able to take that as an advantage.
We have one comment from Anand sir saying one solution is that founders can back each other up. This is built-in disaster management.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is something which is very unique with cohorts like the ones that we have here. You have people to back you. And that's also a resource, actually. There's incubation centers, these networks that you have, alumni, all these are resources in one way or the other. So we have your back, we have each other's back.
Yeah, Rajiv, I had one query. So whenever we get a resource on board, we look at it as an asset, but sometimes down the line, it tends to become a liability. So how can we avoid that, or how can we predict such a scenario and divide our resources properly? I have a proper understanding of a resource as to which is an asset and which is a liability, and plan accordingly.
Sony, that's a very good question. It's a very difficult question because, as I said, you can never be 100% perfect, and there is no secret to that. Absolutely none. But you take a call. You decide what to do. That's and you try to do well with that. At the same time, if a resource becomes excess, there are different ways. One is that you let go of the resource, you sell it, or you lease it out, or you look at a new line of business, diversify. Those are stopgap solutions that you have, but those are not permanent solutions. There is no 100% perfect resource planning or resource allocation method or solution. it's very difficult to do that. So you'll always encounter this kind of solutions, kind of challenges. Sometimes, on the other hand, there will be some situation where some resources will be very difficult to come by, and that's going to affect your business in a very serious manner. So you need to plan for that also.
Thank you, Rajiv. We have a comment from Menon sir also. Founders need to take a completely unemotional view on all resources. The only filter to use is what is good for the venture. Nothing else matters. He says, sorry if it is harsh, but founders need to take a cold, hard look at resource usage. Thank you, sir. Anyone else has any feedback or discussion points? If that's it, I would like to thank everyone for attending this session, and especially Rajiv for taking this his time out. I would request Tarun to kindly summarize and give his vote of thanks. Tarun, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Soni. So first of all, thank you so much, Rajiv, for the presentation. I think, the title of the presentation was very, very, I mean, it sort of arose a lot of curiosity, lean, mean, hungry. So a few takeaways as far as I am concerned. I think you highlighted the importance of resources, beyond land, labor, capital, which we learned in our childhood in basic economics. So I think the methods and the machines which you talked about, I think it obviously, I mean, that becomes very, very critical when it comes to Industry 4.0 in that sort of a scenario. You talked about, the startups at 4 stages, from ideas to funding to expansion to exit. And I think, very clearly, I think in different stages of your presentations, I think it was very clearly highlighted that, the different resources, I mean, at different stages could be different. What I mean is that different resources have a degree of importance at different stages of an organization. And I think that's, as founders, it is important to sort of, identify which are those critical stages at different stages. Obviously, location, men, and let's say the mission, the purpose for which you exist. I mean, it is very, very important to start with. I think 80-20 rule, the iceberg principle, which you highlighted, hopefully that sort of gives, a lot of focus on some of these very basic principles which the founders can use. And at the end of the day, I think that your, what you highlighted in terms of the various methods, whether it is Agile, Lean Six Sigma, gap analysis, etc., which is extremely important. But, you also cautioned, about, not having a very excessive use or relying too much on one of the methods, which could really be, which could really inhibit, for example, a particular startup in its growth journey. Last but not the least, I think touching upon risk management. I mean, being a finance guy myself, I mean, that's something which comes very naturally to me. And the fact that you actually mentioned, and there were some, very interesting conversations around the risk management aspect of it. I think that's something personally I would, I would sort of suggest all the founders and startup to be conscious of and be very mindful of when you are starting a business and at different stages during the business. That becomes very, very important, at the point, which Rajiv highlighted at the beginning of the presentation, which was the value of death. Besides, of course, the conviction that you have and whatever that you do, I think staying very focused and being conscious of the risks at that point in time, whether it is customers, whether it is pricing, whether it is competition, I think that's something is very, very important to my mind. So all in all, I would say that I think it was a very, very comprehensive and a very interesting presentation. And thank you so much for sort of enlightening all of us and bringing focus to some of these points. So that's my takeaway. And last but not the least, I would like to certainly thank all the audience to spare time to listen and have very engaging and sort of thought-provoking, discussions and questions. Soni has been an anchor at IIT Startups, and I must say I mean, I've done it myself in, the administrative roles and the back-end roles at different stages. So I know how difficult it is. Sony, thank you so much for anchoring this and putting all this together. Anjan Da, of course, I mean, he's really the backbone, of IIT startups and, putting things together. And last but not the least, it is Murli sir. I think him steering the entire IIT startups initiative in India, it really gives a lot of, lot of energy and a lot of motivation to all of us to continue to be part of this. So thank you once again, and look forward to the cohorts and the remaining weeks that we have under various cohorts. And of course, I mean, many more masterclass sessions going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tarun. Thank you, Sony and Anjan and Murli sir, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.